Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video discussion finds you well and in very good spirits. Once again, I find myself in quite excellent spirits indeed, because I am joined by a very special guest, as you can see on the other side of the screen here. This is Tony, BasementBlus, and my goodness, there is a lot to talk about. It's exciting. Look at that. Look at that background. Look at that. This is wonderful. And the man in person. So welcome. It's such a pleasure to be able to speak to you in person.
Thank you, Daisuke. Your collection amazes me. So there's no better collection, no lesser collection. I think as physical media collectors and cinema lovers, I think we're amazed by anybody that has the same passions as we do.
Oh, bravo. Well said. Well said. I love your philosophy.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. It's also for the thing that we all love, which is cinema. So
yes.
Well done. Well done. So I suppose before we get into any more discussion points, because I have a lot of questions I want to ask you, my dear friend. But first of all, for anyone who may be meeting you for the first time, would you mind introducing yourself and also introducing for example, your YouTube channel? So could you tell us a little bit about yourself, again, for those who might be meeting you for the first time today?
Sure. So I'm Tony. I live here in the United States, in Georgia. I've been collecting physical media since the late 80s with VHS tapes. I'm a huge collector, as you can tell. I love cinema. All my memories growing up is all about going to the cinema, family, traditions, different groups, just a lot of love for films. I do have a YouTube channel. I've had my YouTube channel up for a little over 10 years. Just really wanted to start doing videos to highlight things that I find in the stores, you know, physical media collections, different releases, special editions. So I've really enjoyed being a part of the YouTube community for the past 10 years, met a lot of great people and still continue to meet a lot of great people. So it's a really great community. I am BasementBlus. That's the title of my channel. You can find me on, actually, I do a lot of posting on Instagram. So you can find me under BasementBlus on Instagram. I do like to show what I'm watching, what I picked up. I love collecting still books and showing them off in case somebody would like to see what it looks like. I do a lot of still book unwrappings, but just a real big lover of cinema.
Well done. Thank you so much. And of course, I will have all the information to your channels and where people can find you. I'll have that all in the description box below. So for people who are interested, of course, please check out BasementBlus. Please go to the YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Please get notifications, check out all the videos, and comment where possible. It's really great. What a lovely resource. And I must say too, I look to you as a great resource for also trying to keep up with all the great releases, because you have such a great collection. And also you have such a great grasp of all these recent releases as well. So when I look at your channel or your Instagram, for example, I always find things, oh yes, I need that, or I need to get this one as well, or that release as well. So it's always nice to, I use your channel and Instagram for many things, one of which also being as a kind of a resource for recent releases. So well done, my friend. It's really wonderful.
There's a method to how I do my purchasing. So yeah, we can definitely discuss that, how I keep on top of everything and how I'm able to purchase the items that I would like to have in the collection. So yeah, that's something that we can definitely touch on.
Oh, well, actually, why don't I ask you right now? So what is this method, if you don't mind me asking?
So I always look a month in advance to see what's coming out, because, I'm not made of money. A lot of people think I've got just tons and tons of money because I've got so much physical media. but I'm able to look in advance to see what's coming out and kind of plan that month out in advance to where I can figure out how much I'm going to have to spend. I do spend a lot. I'm fortunate enough to where my kids are all grown, they're grown adults, and don't really have much of a hobby of anything other than cinema and collecting video, um, collecting physical media. So I'm able to afford that as my spending. And so each Sunday I'll go out, I'll see what's coming out the next week, and I'll start adding that to my cart on Amazon or planning out my trips to Best Buy or Target. So there's just a whole method of planning in advance to be able to get what I get.
Oh, that's really cool. That's very smart too. Yes, to plan in advance.
Right.
Very good. So that means then, how should I put it? Are there um uh do you when you say a month in advance, so do
Mhm.
you tend to, because for example there might be some pretty big releases
Right.
that are on the horizon, but that are, say, not just a month in advance, but quite a few months in advance, so
Yeah.
are those part of the purchasing, say, a method, or do you also leave room for, say, surprises or things that you might not have heard of until, say, that month in advance shopping or
Yeah, oh
checking
yeah,
out?
definitely. Yeah, so, like with still books, a lot of times, there'll be announcements of steel books coming out 3,
Sure.
4 months in advance.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and pre-order those because a lot of times steel books go out of stock and you're not able to get them on release day. So just as soon as I find out, there's so many different resources online. Mostly I go to blu-ray.com and look at what's coming out. They have a really nice release calendar. So I'm able to plan what I want to get. And then sometimes I'm not even aware of something until someone else shows it, like on Instagram, or does a video of it. I think, oh man, that looks nice. So I always have extra. I'm always selling titles that I no longer have interest in. So I'm always selling on the eBay to make extra money. Um, so there's so many different methods. We got such a large community of film lovers that help me. Like David over at Film Collector Archive, he's really good about saying, "Hey, Tony, this is a really nice release coming out, are you going to pick it up?" And so just the community working together to, figure out what's going to be something that a collector's going to want to have, films that I want to see. So many different methods.
Oh, that's very good. Well done. I am very impressed with that approach. I think it's also very practical as well, because as you say, it's impossible to try to get everything because
Oh
it's
yeah.
just too much, and one's wallet can only go so far. You know what I
Right.
mean? I understand that. So,
Yeah.
but you're absolutely that's really very smart, very astute to try to plan in advance like this. So this is really great, and of course that means it's I guess it goes without saying. Well, but I'll say it, of course, which
Mhm.
is you love cinema.
Oh
It
yes.
seems very obvious from your passion already and your excitement, and the results of those with what you're talking about on a kind of daily basis, right?
Oh
So
yes.
I suppose then, Tony, what I'd love to go into maybe some of those early cinema journey memories for you. So what was your cinema journey beginning, and what were some of those early important films that you remember
So
as
just
part
thinking
of your
always.
beginning?
Yeah, sorry. So thinking about my childhood, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. So I
Okay.
remember back in the 70s going to the drive-in theater with my parents and my brothers. Um, it seemed like it's almost like a weekly thing. We would go to the drive-in. A lot of times there were movies that, I didn't really know much about. Of course, as a kid, you wouldn't know much, but just old classic films I can think of, mostly Disney films that I can remember seeing earlier, like the Shaggy Dog and um, the Snowmobile, all those all those older ones like Freaky Friday. But I also remember, other than those kind of movies, I remember seeing James Bond movies at the drive-in. I remember seeing um, all the older James Bond films, such as For Your Eyes Only. Um, it's almost like we were either at the drive-in every weekend or at we had movie theaters also. But I remember a lot of times Disney back in the 70s would do re-releases of older cartoons. So we would see the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh and those kind of things. But I remember the Disney films mostly from the early 70s. And then as we got older, I remember seeing like I said, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. So when Jaws came out, we saw Jaws in the cinema. Um, Superman, when Superman came out, it was just amazing to see all these things because back then we didn't have the streaming services, we didn't have VHS tapes until the later 80s. So cinema was really pretty much where our escape was. If we wanted to see something, we didn't get to see it on TV, we saw it at the cinema. So those are my earlier memories.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, that's so cool. Superman, the movie in the
Oh yeah,
theater, Jaws in the theater.
yeah,
That's
all those
that.
great ones.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh gosh. Oh my goodness. That's so cool. That is so. And then of course, then you, as you mentioned, 70s and the 80s, and
Hmm.
you mentioned a little bit already about say VHS as well. So that emerged in the 80s, as you referred to. And
Right.
so I would assume then there was also a period of, say, the VHS rental.
Oh
Um,
yes. So when I was a teenager back in the 80s, I worked at a video rental store called Video Country, and so I was around people that were talking movies and renting videotapes. And so I remember me and my brother, we pitched in and bought our first VCR. Back then all that stuff was so expensive. We were working part-time jobs and going to high school. So we got our first VCR. And then as soon as I got the VCR, I really wanted to start just collecting. I wanted to start getting all the VHS tapes. And back then the VHS tapes were like in the $30 range, so it was pretty expensive. So a lot of times I have an identical twin brother, so we were working and spending time together. So we would always go out and buy things together so that we would be able to afford to buy some of these things. But things like Footloose, we saw Footloose in the cinema, so we wanted to buy the VHS tape. We saw The Color Purple in the cinema, so we wanted to buy the VHS tape. So everything that we saw in the cinema, we were kind of wanting to collect ourselves to where we would always have it available to watch. And that's some of my teenage years. That's what I was focused on, is kind of start building up a collection of movies that we loved seeing.
that's interesting. That's really interesting because the for me too, I was I also I grew up in the 80s, and so
Mhm.
I have that VHS rental store experience as part of
Right.
my childhood growing up. But I didn't necessarily piece together in my head the VHS, say, consumption experience and then
Mm.
collecting. I didn't piece that together until much later. I think because also I think the videotapes were really expensive, actually.
Yes. Yes,
Sometimes you
definitely.
mentioned $30 or more, but sometimes too they'd be even more than that. Sometimes you'd
Oh
go into
yeah.
like 50, 60, or even sometimes $100 for a tape or something, which is for me, I mean, even now that's expensive, but for me back then when I was a kid, that was just impossible
Oh
to
yeah.
achieve. So that's very impressive that you had that approach of collecting
Hmm.
early on. That's really impressive.
Right. And even with the VCR and being able to record off the TV, there would be many times that we would record movies off the TV. You know, say that they had like The Wizard of Oz coming on. It only came on once a year, so if you missed it, you didn't get to see it until the following year.
Yeah.
So we would record it so we could watch it anytime we wanted to. And I just remember watching a lot of pre-record, a lot of VHS recorded movies that came on. They had TV movies of the week that would come on, made for TV movies, which we really enjoyed. So there's a lot of those. Now those tapes I really wish I would have held on to, but all the pre-recorded TV show or TV movies that we recorded, I don't know whatever happened to those tapes, but they're no longer in the collection, unfortunately.
But you have those memories,
Oh
right?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So, and did you try to record and cut out the commercials, or would record the the movie with the commercials as
Um,
well?
yeah, we just recorded it with commercials.
Oh,
We
good for
didn't
you.
have anything fancy. And plus, if those commercials back then, they weren't terrible. They don't seem as intrusive back then as they are now, where it was like every 15 minutes it'd be a commercial. But I'm sure that's probably the way it was. But yeah, commercials didn't bother us any. We
Oh,
just
that's
fast
great.
forward through them.
Oh, that's so cool. Again, I can totally relate because I was there too, and trying to, for instance, use EP mode, and
Yes,
so fit in as much
different
on,
mode.
6 hours or something on the tape rather than the two
Exactly.
hours. Yeah, and then make sure you break the tab so it doesn't, you
Yes.
don't accidentally record over it. It's yeah, I remember those days fondly as well. So and was there any, for example, was there any genre or genres that you found yourself
Oh,
particularly attracted to
yeah,
during this time?
yeah, I definitely enjoyed the dramas the most. I loved horror films. Just didn't really see them as much as I did the dramas. Um, Comedies didn't really appeal to me back then. Sci-fi, we of course loved Star Wars, but there wasn't really many sci-fi movies that we liked. So mostly I always say we because I got a twin brother, but I always liked watching the dramas. Things like Driving Miss Daisy, The Color Purple, anything that kind of made you feel some sort of emotion is what I was always drawn to.
And were these also titles that, for instance, maybe would also get some awards attention, either nominations or wins at, say, Academy Awards, or is that not
Ooh.
necessarily part of the equation?
No, no, definitely. If the Academy Awards back then was a big deal, if something was Best Picture, I really wanted to find out more about that film. I wanted to watch it, have it in the collection. So there was a time where the award season would be a big um, help for me to figure out what I should check out, what I should watch. Um, it seems a little bit different now. Nowadays, I don't really focus on the awards. Of course, I'm interested in what's happening, but back then I would be more focused on it because it gave me suggestions of what I could watch. Nowadays, we have such a community of people. They'll let you know, hey, this is what I recommend, or there's so many different outlets of ways to finding out what's coming out and what to watch. But back then, you didn't have anybody telling you, "Oh, you should go see this or you should go see that." So the award season would be a good time for you to figure out, hey, that won Best Picture. There's got to be something good about it. And it gave me good suggestions of what I should see.
Oh, that's yeah. I also can relate to that very much so. And so they also sometimes have these montages. I don't know about nowadays. I don't watch the broadcast now,
Right.
unfortunately. But I went back in the day. I would watch the broadcast, and so sometimes you'd see these montages of these great filmmakers
Mhm.
like Fellini as well, or Michelangelo Antonioni, or Satyajit Ray, or some, as well as the films that were part of that year's, say, Best
Right.
Picture lineup or something, or best whatever category. So
Yeah.
it was, and then Billy Crystal
Right.
would be the host
Oh,
for most of
a
the
great
time. Yeah.
host.
Oh, it was,
Yes.
yeah, great. Yeah, so funny with all the song medley
Oh
and
yeah. And the impersonations and the reenactments of the movies. He did such a great job.
yeah, it was so cool. Yeah, uh had such a great, and he knew it was the perfect type of touch that he had.
Right.
It was a really magical touch. So
Yeah,
uh
it wasn't as offensive, and I don't know, today the award shows seem more, I don't know what it is. They seem more offensive to me. They're not really focused on the films. They're more focused on current events and different things going on in the world. Back then, it was really focused on the films, and that's what I liked about it back then. I don't really care much for the award shows nowadays. I do see glimpses of segments, but as far as being in front of the TV to watch them, I don't care much about them nowadays.
Well, as you say too, there are other places that you can go, as you
Hmm.
mentioned just now, about learning about the current lineup or
Hmm.
recommendations from others, trusted others, as it were.
Right.
So that I think that's all very good
Yeah.
indeed. So
And thinking about, also thinking back to my childhood, Siskel and Ebert had a show on every Saturday. We would
yes,
watch that every Saturday to figure out what's coming out and what to watch. So that was a big impact. Nowadays you see movie trailers online. Just every single movie has a trailer. Back then you didn't really know of what to go watch until you watched Siskel and Ebert, and they gave you what they enjoyed, if it got a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So those were a big influence on us growing up to figure out what movies to go see in the cinema. And I remember getting the newspaper. Um, the newspaper would always have the show times for the theater, what's coming out, and I always remember being focused on that segment in the newspaper. Hey, let's go watch this Saturday, or let's go do that. So, things are different nowadays.
and then, so, what were some of those? You mentioned some movie going experiences from, say, the 70s, and so what now going into the 80s, and so what were some other movie theater experiences that were in particular memorable to you? I know you
Yeah,
mentioned a couple already, like Color Purple and Driving Miss
right.
Daisy. Were there any others as well in terms of
Oh,
the movie
definitely,
theater?
definitely. I remember going to see Gremlins. Um,
Cool.
just all those good 80 movies I was able to see in the theater. We saw Gremlins, we saw E.T. in the theater. We saw if I'm not mistaken, I would say that we at least saw one movie every single week in the cinema. There
That's
were so
cool.
many of them that kind of combines together. But I remember in my high school years, as we got older, I remember taking a date out to the theater to go see movies. I remember we were really active in our church group, and we would all go get together to go see some kind of movie. I remember going to see Beetlejuice in the theater with a church group. um, Vividly in my mind, I can picture us and this what the theater looked like and where we sat and all that stuff. That's how much of an impression it made on me. But as far as what movie was I seeing, I can't really remember what it was that I was watching at that time. But I do remember I mentioned The Color Purple. I remember going to see The Color Purple by myself back when it was released. And as soon as I got done watching it, I had to go call people up and say, "Hey, you got to go see this movie." And I remember going back to the cinema to watch it a second time the same day. And we did that with many movies. I remember seeing Willow in the theater
Oh,
multiple
wow.
times during the
Yeah.
same day.
Yeah.
They were just exciting to us.
Yeah, yeah. I saw Willow in the theater as well.
Yeah,
That was so magical. That was
it
such a
was. It's
yeah,
nothing like it before. It
yeah.
was it was just an epic adventure.
And I was always expecting as a kid, oh, there's got to be another Willow. I mean, I guess now it's back in the news or back in the spotlight
Right.
in a manner
Uh,
of speaking. But I was back in the day as a kid, I was always expecting, oh, they're gonna make another Willow film. I
right.
hope, or another Willow story. So that was such a oh, that was so
Oh,
much fun. Yeah.
yeah.
So oh, that's wonderful. And then when when did this begin to uh transition, or not transition, but when did DVD and then now Blu-ray and then now of course 4K. So
Yeah.
when did that journey begin for you? Was it more or less when DVD was initially commercially available on the market, or
Yeah,
what was
well,
the timing of that?
so as far as the DVDs being added, I remember, so I got married in the early 90s and we had our family. And as the kids were growing up, we would still buy the Disney VHS tapes. As they were growing, we'd get them a new VHS tape every single Christmas. So we would kind of building up our Disney collection, the animated movies, the classics. And then in the early 90s when the DVDs started coming out, I was really focused on collecting the TV shows that were on DVD because TV was a big part of my life also, even as a child growing up. I always had some really great TV memories. And so as the DVDs were being released, there was a lot of TV shows being released on DVD. And that's what I was kind of focused on at that time. I wasn't really focused on the movies because I still had hundreds of VHS tapes with the movies on it. And as I was transitioning with raising a family, we didn't have as much money. You know, as you're raising a family, your priorities are different. You don't focus on the material stuff. You're mostly focused on the kids and,
Sure.
you know, their education and all that stuff. So there was a whole period of at least 15 years to where I wasn't really collecting as heavily, other than the Christmas, you know, the kids' Christmas and the tapes that would come out. Um, so as my kids started getting older and graduating from high school, that's when I started really getting back into the collecting of the movies. And that would be the DVDs, and then eventually the Blu-rays and the 4Ks. So
Very cool.
that's my oldest son is 30 years old. So it's been a good, I guess when I started my YouTube channel 10 years ago was when I was really starting to build up the Blu-ray collection. So
Mm.
10 years ago would be when that pretty much started.
Oh, very nice indeed. And you
But
mentioned, oh yes, please go ahead. I'm sorry.
but I was still going to the cinema a lot. You know, as the kids were growing up, we would still go to the cinema. We would go see the Harry Potter films. We would go see the Lord of the Rings films. Any big blockbuster type films, we were always in the cinemas to watch those. So I still have those memories of my kids growing up and taking them to the cinema also.
Oh, that's really cool. That is really cool indeed. And you mentioned too TV shows. So
Hmm.
what are some TV shows that you
Oh man.
particularly enjoy? For example,
Mhm. For example, anything Buffy the Vampire Slayer, ER, medical dramas, um, MASH, old classic TV shows. Um, there's just so many of them. I've got hundreds of TV shows on DVD. So this is one room. Over on that side, there's another room that's like this one, and that's where all the TV show stuff live. Um, but there's just been so many good TV shows over the years. And a lot of animated type TV shows, all the Hanna-Barbera cartoons I grew up watching.
cool.
There's a lot of DVDs of those.
Mm.
So anything that I could collect that brings fond memories, nostalgic feelings, I like to have those in the collection.
Oh, that's so wow, that's really awesome. That is really awesome indeed. I guess were there were these are these TV shows and you also mentioned Hanna-Barbera, so I'm also assuming
Mhm.
cartoons as
Yeah.
well. What are some of the cartoon shows, for
Oh,
example?
yeah, growing up, all you know, the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Saturday morning cartoons like Bugs Bunny and
Yeah,
Roadrunner
yeah,
Hour, um, Felix the Cat,
cool.
just so many great cartoons, and even the Disney stuff. You know, I still have fond memories of all the Disney, the Mickey Mouse Club that would come on in the '70s, um, um, just all kinds of good stuff.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And so, and I'm assuming that your TV show, say physical media collection is
Mhm.
still growing,
Oh
and
yes,
you're oh that's wonderful because making these great releases
right.
continuous and continually, which is really wonderful for physical media enthusiasts.
It's almost kind of slowed down though with all the streaming services that have been popping up.
Oh, okay, that's a
A
good
lot of
point.
the TV show stuff doesn't release as often as they used to. But those that do that I have connections with, I do still like to buy those. You know, like The Walking Dead,
Yeah.
um, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, all those good newer TV shows.
Oh, that's great. That's and so then what is a let's say what is the count? How many titles would you say you have right now
Oh man.
approximately? Or should I not ask? I don't know.
Oh well. Yeah, I've got it cataloged on Blu-ray.com. It gives you a number of how many is in the collection. I would say over 3,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely over 3,000, if not more than that.
that's amazing. That is
Yeah,
really amazing. And
takes up a
so
lot of space. I'm very fortunate to have this space here in the basement to have my collection.
hence the name Basement Blues.
Exactly. Yes.
That's very cool. That is
And
really
it's
cool.
cold down here in the basement. That's why I'm always bundled up. It stays pretty cold down here.
But I guess that's good in terms of media collecting
Yeah,
because you
it
need to have a temperature controlled environment
oh,
to a certain
definitely
degree.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. And then so, uh, are there, say, titles that you maybe, well, how should I put it? What are some examples? Do you have, say, more than one version of the same title? And if
Yes,
so, what are some examples of that?
oh, wow, there's so many, Top Gun, I just recently did a I was recently on someone's, live stream, and we were talking about how many movies do you have and how many duplicates of those movies you have,
Yeah,
and I ended up recognizing that I have Top Gun. I've got I've got Top Gun like 10 times in the collection.
that's so
Different
cool.
versions because they put out different steel books or they put out special editions. So there's a lot of titles that I've got multiple copies of, which takes up a lot of space. But a lot of times with the titles, they'll drop off special features that are no longer on a newer title.
Yeah,
So if I want to upgrade to 4K, well, I have to hold on
yeah,
to the Blu-ray because
yeah.
there's special features, and I'm all about the special features. I love if I'm watching a Criterion release, a lot of times I'll connect with that release more because of the special features that I've watched or the commentary that's been presented. So there's a lot of things in the special features that I get out of the movie that helps me enjoy the movie even more. So I'll have multiple copies of different things because of the different special features released.
So, just continuing on, Tony. So then I guess the next question would be, where does, say, streaming services fall into your daily routine or your cinema watching habits?
Yeah. So even as a physical media collector, there's a lot on streaming that I have to take advantage of because there's no other release for those.
Sure.
So we subscribe to Netflix, HBO Max, Disney Plus. There's so much good content out there that there's just a variety of things. Like we had mentioned with Willow, Disney Plus has a Willow show out now. Disney Plus has the Marvel shows. They have Star Wars, which I love. So there's a lot of things on streaming that I really do enjoy watching with my wife and my family. Um, Things like Stranger Things on Netflix. There's so much good content out there that anybody that doesn't subscribe to um a streaming service is probably missing out on a lot of good entertainment. So I'm not against it whatsoever. But I'm also in favor of physical media. I love having physical media just because there's been times where things get censored or edited out. And if you don't have it on physical media, then if you have a physical copy of it, then you don't have to worry about someone editing certain things out of certain animated cartoons or those types of things. So I'm definitely for streaming and I'm definitely for physical media to live together in the same world.
Oh, that's a really interesting point. Yeah, because there's a kind of, I don't know if permanence is the right word, but there's a kind of, say, assurance,
Hmm.
to a certain degree. I totally understand that in terms of the version that one is getting
Right.
when one has a physical media copy in one's hands. Of course, too, even in the physical media realm, there are certain issues, and I'm sure you're aware of as well. Depending on what version you get, it might be the, I don't know, the pre-restoration version or the
Right.
slightly edited cut or something like that, or maybe
Right.
extended or so. So that also becomes a bit of a fun journey and challenge as well, even in the physical media arena. But you're absolutely right. I think there's, for me personally, I'm also a subscriber of certain streaming services, but I totally understand what you're saying as well in terms of, I'm not sure what version I'm in for when I'm
Hmm.
pressing play on the
Right.
on my remote control or something like that. It usually doesn't make too much of a difference, I think, but every now and again it can make quite a big difference, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, mostly I prefer watching the director's cut of anything. If anything's available and the director cut's available, that would be my preferred method of watching a film. Just because to me, I think the director would have the best knowledge of what's the best version of the film to see. So if I'm ever just wondering which version to watch, I'll always go with the director's cut. But it's nice to have the options to see different versions, different introductions to the films, different endings that might happen.
Yeah.
So you know, if I, like I said, I have multiple movies in the collection of the same film. One time I'll watch the director's cut, maybe the next time I'll watch the theatrical cut. I kind of switch them around every once in a while just for something different. Now, also the fact that I do watch at least one movie every single day, so I do watch at least one film every single day. Sometimes there's more than I'm able to watch. I've been doing that for the past three. I guess I've been doing that since the pandemic started. I really got into wanting to watch something every day, and I log it on Letterbox so people can see what I'm watching, maybe even see what my thoughts are about those films. So I do see a lot of new films, but a lot of times I revisit some of the older films that I've enjoyed in the past. But it's always nice to get recommendations of newer films to check out.
And then also, I think, for example, and this is just one of many examples that I know of, but you did that, for example, with like maybe this month will be
Oh,
a
yes.
Criterion title a day or something like that. So I remember I was
Exactly.
following that with great interest. Oh, what's the
Right.
title today, I wonder? So that was
Right.
one where I think you were talking about it, like on Instagram, for example.
Yes.
Today I'm going to watch this from the Criterion Collection. The next day you talk about another
Yes.
title from the Criterion Collection. So,
It,
so
it kind of
you have that approach, right? Yeah.
definitely. There's different months where we'll just do different themes. Like there'll be a Western theme month where nothing but Westerns are watched during the month. A lot of times in July when when the Criterion sale's going on, the Barnes and Noble Criterion sale, I'll focus on watching a Criterion film every single day because to me it helps me, gives me variety.
Yeah.
It helps me open up titles that I haven't even opened up yet that have just been sitting on the shelves. So I do like to change it up every month. October, of course, there was a horror movie that was watched every day. During December, there would be a Christmas movie that I would watch every day. So it kind of helps to get your mind in a different mindset. I love recommendations. So anytime somebody recommends a movie to me, I always try to check that film out. Which most of the time when somebody recommends something, I pretty much enjoy the film. It's if somebody knows me enough to where they recommend a film, to me, it makes me appreciate the film a little bit more.
Oh, that's really great, Tony. That's really wonderful.
Mm.
Yes, and I love that approach, different and also the type of monthly, daily
Mhm.
routine. And it's also, as you say, it's good to get recommendations. It's also good to share that. It's also good for you, as you mentioned, in terms of allowing you the opportunity to watch those films that you have yet to see, for instance, in your collection. That's really great. Yeah, I really
Right.
enjoy those very
Well,
much.
another thing that I really like, just as you collect the as you're a big collector of the Criterion Collection, I enjoy watching your videos. I enjoy watching the Criterion Closet videos that they put out. I
Yeah,
love seeing what these directors and producers and things when they go into the Criterion Closet and they start pulling out titles that they've seen and they talk about them briefly. It helps me to know what to look for when I want to buy from the Criterion. If they have a Criterion. So mostly I focus on Criterion when there's a sale
yeah,
because they are a little bit more pricey, and
yeah.
I'm frugal. Even if you see my collection behind me, I'm still frugal. The more frugal I can be, the more I can buy. So
Mhm.
it's always good to get recommendations, and I really do enjoy watching your videos, and I enjoy watching those that go into the Criterion Closet and hearing what they have to say about the films. That
Oh,
that helps me to know what to purchase.
oh yeah. Well, thank you very much for that. And also, yes, I too am a fan of those closet videos, Criterion closet videos, what people
Man,
pick from the shelves.
I would love to go in that closet and just start filling a bag full. Well, you don't need to because you've already got them all, but
Oh, but no, I would be like, where is the third man or something, or
right.
where's hard boiled or something, or the kill or something like that. So
Yeah,
take me to those out of prints, but
right. Oh man, that would be something.
but I'm sure they've got to be there on the shelf somewhere in
Oh yeah.
that closet there. But what are some that this brings me to the next question I wanted to ask, which is maybe what are some examples in your own collection, titles that or releases that maybe are for one reason or another of great value to you. Now, I don't mean this can mean maybe a very rare thing or a very
Right.
valuable thing, but it doesn't have to be. It's something that has something that is very special to you. What are some examples of in your great collection?
Hmm.
Those titles that maybe in terms of a release, or maybe the packaging, or maybe some memory or sentimental value or nostalgia value
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something. What is what are some examples of titles in your collection, releases in your collection that have high value for you?
Yeah, so the first thing that came to my mind when you said that was the Disney Treasures collection. Um, each year back, I guess in the early 2000s, they started releasing they released three every single year for several years, and it was the Disney Treasure line, and you would get classic Mickey Mouse cartoons, Donald Duck cartoons, old TV shows like the Hardy Boys, Davy Crockett. And so they would do these really nice releases. They would come in a really nice silver tin with some little collectibles on the inside of it. Um, and then you would have these DVD. They're unfortunately they were all on DVD, which wasn't bad. The quality looks great, but Leonard Maltin would do an introduction to each of these collections at the beginning, and I always remember just really looking forward to seeing what they were going to release next. Like I said, they were just 3 a year. I think there's 12 total, if I'm not mistaken. And so I remember collecting those each year and just enjoying those releases and then anticipating what they was going to do the next year for the next three releases. So the last set we got was for Zorro, the TV show, which I loved, grew up watching those. And so to me, those would be a piece of my collection that I would never want to get rid of. Um, and those are what I think of when I think about things that I've collected that I really treasure would be those old Disney treasure collections. Now, are you familiar with those?
Yes, yes. I don't have all of them.
Oh, do you have some of them?
I have some of them, but actually, maybe not that many. But I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
because there's
so those.
nowhere else there's nowhere else to see those. Those
Yeah,
are not on
yeah,
Disney Plus,
exactly. Yeah.
and yeah, that's the only way to get them.
Yeah, so those are very very collectible,
Hmm.
and as you say, in terms of availability, there's a
Right.
rarity factor there as well. So I mean, I wish I had more, but that's so great. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. And as you say, it also ties in with your love of Disney
Sure.
works you
A
mentioned
lot of
earlier in the
childhood
conversation.
memories, nostalgia.
Exactly. Oh,
Mhm.
that's wonderful. So that's one example. Are there any other examples
Uh,
of that high value
so
items for you?
I love having films in the collection. Since I do buy physical media, it's always nice to have something that's gone out of print to where it's more sought after. People think, "Oh, Tony, you could sell that and make some money off of it." But, thinking in my mind, why would I sell it? I want that in the collection. So there's out of print titles that I have in the collection that mean a lot to me. As far as knowing exactly what the title is, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head, but I did recently acquire Free Willy, which is a movie that my kids watched when they were growing up, you know, um, and that went out of print. And I was fortunate enough to be able to get a copy of that because of the community around us, the movie community. Someone knew that I was interested in that and gave me a really good deal on that. So it's nice having titles in the collection that are rare, that not everybody else has in their collection. So I like those. I do like special packaging. So there's a lot of box sets that they've done. Thinking about TV shows on DVD, there's been so many good packaging for like Lost in Space, where it has the robot packaging, um, Battlestar Galactica, just all those things from my childhood that I remember. Being able to get those on DVD and a special, presentation with the packaging is always nice to have in the collection. Planet of the Apes, that
Yeah.
the original Planet of the Apes movies. Well, there's a nice ape bust with the fur and everything on it that is in my collection. I've got the Terminator 2. I've got the End of Skull Terminator that the eyes light up and it makes noise, those kind of things. They used to
Cool.
do some really nice collector's editions. Nowadays, they'll just put something in a box and call it a collector's edition. There's really not much to it. But back in the late 90s, early 2000s, they always did something really extravagant with some releases. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to have some of those in the collection.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't have as many as I would personally like. So, but
Right.
I know of these as well. So like I think the one that I wish I had, but I didn't, which is uh the the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Well, I
Oh,
guess that now it's coming out in 4K in I think a month or
right.
so. So, but that's but the right the ah yes, I wanted to have that. I didn't get that. Yes, and it's
Yeah.
still in the wrap.
Oh, I'm really bad about
That's
I'm really
great.
bad about preserving things.
That's so cool.
That's one thing I do get a lot of slack for. A lot of people see that I have some things that are still sealed up, but it's not that I keep it sealed, but to keep it new. That's in my mindset. If it's sealed up, it's still new. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I've got that film like five other um I've got like five other copies of that film. So if I wanted to watch the movie, I could definitely open up something and watch it. So the some box sets, if they stay sealed up, they stay fresh and new in my
Yeah.
mind. So I keep a lot of my things sealed.
That's it's you do what you need to do with
Right.
your I mean it's how you approach your collection. So that's you know,
More
bravo.
preserving the
Yeah.
packaging. Yeah.
Bravo. I mean
That's
and that's part of the fun. As I mentioned, I wish I got that. I did it. So but well done indeed. Are you going to get the 4K?
oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely looking forward to getting that.
Yeah, it's that's going to be very interesting indeed.
I love the
I
artwork. I love the artwork that they
yeah.
put on that package.
Yeah, like right that yeah, it's amazing. So that also brings me to that my next question, which is what's the state of your collection in 4K UHD?
Oh man. I went all out on the 4K, so I've got everything that I want to have on 4K that's come and been released. I've got just hundreds and hundreds of 4K releases. I prefer to watch everything in 4K if it's available. That's my first viewing option. If it's available in 4K, that's what I want to watch. I got a nice little TV set up with good audio options, so it gets pretty loud down here in the basement when I'm watching a movie. But yeah, 4K, I love 4K, and it's if they want to keep putting things out on 4K, I'm all for it. And definitely with the Criterion Collection now, they're releasing things in 4K. I wish that my only gripe with the Criterion Collection with their 4K releases, I would love to get different artwork. I would love to have something
Yeah.
different, something that looks different on the shelf. Um, I always like it when they change up the artwork for the different releases.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think yeah, that would also be very interesting. That would make it maybe that little bit
Hmm.
extra collectible,
Right,
and it would also, I think, just make it that distinct.
right.
Um, I'm not sure why they don't do that. I think maybe it's
Yeah,
because it comes in the Blu-ray combo,
right,
and so it usually there would always, well, not always, but there would more often than not be a standalone Blu-ray release as well. And
right.
so I guess to have continuity, I suppose. But I can see the point that you're bringing about that. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Like they did with Wally. I love the Wally release that they just did. Beautiful looking packaging for that. Um, when I think about Mulholland Drive, I got the Blu-ray release when it came out, and then recently last year they released the 4K. Well, it looks exactly the same sitting on the shelf. There's nothing really different about it. So to me, if they would have just changed the packaging, then it's sitting on the shelf. But I do try to I do definitely keep all my Criterion stuff together on the shelves. Which I've only got I got about 150 Criterion titles in the collection, but sitting on the shelf, it'd be nice to know which one's Blu-ray, which one's 4K, if the packaging looked a little bit different.
Yeah, I can totally understand this, and it would, I think, it might make it, maybe, as you say, it would be, or as you suggest, it would be that make it that little bit extra, say, collectible or distinct, or something. Yeah, that's a really good point. I suppose there might be just a maybe slight difference in size or dimension.
Right,
Maybe the case is a little bit thinner
right.
or leaner or something like that. But that's pretty much it, for most of these things. Or maybe it's the plastic case or the digipack. I don't know, or vice
Exactly.
versa or something like that. So
Yeah. I really like I like the way that the digipacks look, but they don't sit on the shelf very well. So
yeah,
I do
yeah.
put everything that I can put in I put everything in bags. I've got these little collectible bags that I slide my slip covers and my steel books in just to keep them from fraying or getting scuffed up on the shelves. So some packaging fits in bags and some don't. Do you know what I'm talking about as far as the little insert bags?
Oh yes, yes. I don't use them myself, but I know what you're speaking
Yeah.
of. Yes,
And
that's a
what I
really
like
good
about
idea.
the Criterion, they have really nice cases, so I'm not concerned about their cases. But if there's a digipack like Wally,
Yeah.
I didn't want Wally to get messed up, so it went into a bag.
Oh, good, good. The corners are very
Yeah,
susceptible to, dents and things. I totally
exactly.
understand, or frays. Yeah.
Right,
So I
right.
understand what you're referring to. So that's a very good method.
Right.
I wish.
People give me a hard time about that also.
Really? Why? Why? I mean, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I don't know. People have their opinions, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's, you do what you need to do, right? In terms
Right.
of your collecting and the like. And as you say, it's not for the sake. You watch these films as well,
Exactly.
right? So it's not
Oh, yeah.
like, or maybe you'll have the version, but you'll still want it, intact, but that you'll
Right.
still watch the film,
Exactly.
which is what it's all about at the end of the
Exactly.
day.
It
Yeah.
is.
So, that's really cool. That is really cool indeed. And then, so, um, let's see. What about some recent releases? And these don't necessarily have to be recent films.
Hmm.
These can be, say, recent releases from, I mean, they don't have to be Criterion, they can be from any label. Or what are some recent releases, or maybe not necessarily the recent releases. What have been some recent, what have been some titles that have recently caught your eye? Let me put it that way. So they don't
Right.
have to necessarily be releases that have occurred recently, but maybe
Right.
these are releases that have caught your eye
Right.
recently,
Right.
for one reason or another. Are there any particular and you don't necessarily have to have them in your collection per se, but
Right.
what are some titles and some releases that you think, oh gosh, they really did a good job with that one, or
Mhm.
things of that. So what do you think?
Yeah. So some things that come into my mind just because I did just come off of Criterion month. I did watch Sound of Metal, which I really enjoyed. It was a different type of movie. I love what they did with that film as far as making the viewer kind of experience what the movie was about based on the way that they did the audio in the film. Um, to me, I really enjoyed it when they do something different. So Sound of Metal is one of those where they kind of put you in the place of the main character to where he was experiencing hearing loss, and the way they did the audio was put you kind of immersed into that film. I loved the way the way that they did that. Another one that comes to mind is the film that I saw in cinema, 1917. It came out a few years ago, where it was almost like it was just one shot. The whole film was just a continuation. To me, I wasn't aware that that's the way that the movie was going to be. So it was a surprise to me to see how that worked out. And I loved it. I love war films. To me, it kind of made me feel like it was an older film. And I really enjoyed that. Another one that comes to mind is a film with Anthony Hopkins. It's called The Father, and he's experiencing Alzheimer's. And the way that they did the movie would be edited in a way to where you had a loss in time based on what his story was telling. And to me, I enjoyed that kind of aspect. So anything that's different than the normal is something that I really enjoy. and those are some of the recent ones that I've seen. I did recently watch Empire of the Sun, which I had never seen before. It came out in 1980 came out in 1987. I never did watch it, but I recently just opened it up and wanted something different to watch. And I really love the way that they did that film. It's a very simple story, and Christian Bale was a child actor at that time, which he looks identical to the way he looks today. So it was amazing to see him as a child actor. But just any new experience. I just love watching films, and anything that's a little bit different and out of the ordinary. Like I mentioned, Sound of Metal, The Father, those kind of films.
And oh, that's so cool. Yes. And the state of physical media at the moment. What's your take on the state of physical media?
Oh, wow. I think it's growing. Yeah, I know there were some concerns a year or so ago that physical media was going to die out. Well, it is true that there's a lot of retailers that are not carrying as much physical media as they used to, but there's so many websites out there that carry all this physical media. We continue to get more and more physical media releases that I don't see that it's dying out anytime soon. I think that it's going pretty strong, especially the past year that we had. 2022 was a big year of physical media releases, and I think maybe a lot of people were getting scared that streaming services would take over that kind of market, and maybe in some fashion it has, but there's just a lot of physical media releases, boutique labels, other countries that sell physical media. It's just a big open market in my opinion.
Yeah, I would concur. I would say too that it seems to me that there there's no better time to get into physical media than now, I would say. I mean,
Oh,
with
definitely.
emerging new technologies and 4K releases and the like. I suppose maybe for me it would be that I think the 4K UHD format seems to be, and I could be wrong about this. Please correct me if you think
Mhm.
differently, but it seems to be more or less for the kind of the 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 big titles,
Mhm.
or maybe the something that has a really good Blu-ray release, but now it's the 4K, or maybe some tent pole title for a particular label,
Right.
or flagship title for a particular label, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see that that uh, spread out a little bit more into quote unquote more quote unquote obscure films, to see
Mhm.
how that plays itself out. But I understand it's still it's still a pretty new,
Right.
relatively speaking, technology. And then I suppose on the flip side of that, as you indicated, we're seeing a lot of really cool obscure titles that you would never thought even a few years ago you'd ever see
Right.
in a physical media release, let alone this really great deluxe
Mhm.
Blu-ray packaging, whatever the case may be. So it's really an exciting time, I
It
think.
really is.
Yeah. And as you say too, the 4K UHD experience is actually it's very, very I mean it in terms of picture, sound, and overall immersive experience.
Mhm.
More often than not, it can't be beat. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And thinking about that, even speaking about the Criterion Collection, them delving into the 4K market, to me, their Blu-ray releases are top notch. A lot of times, the Blu-ray releases already have a 4K scan, and to me, visually, they look great. So it's hard for me to really tell a difference between the Blu-ray and the
Mm.
4K on some of the Criterion releases. So a lot of times, I haven't even upgraded on those yet. I'll Pretty much I'll only buy the 4K release if I don't already have it in the collection.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that they're doing that. I'm happy that they're giving us they do both releases. They do a Blu-ray and they do a 4K most of the time, but it's just nice to see them do something different. And as you were talking about physical media, thinking about streaming services and physical media, Criterion has their own streaming service, which is wonderful. It gives you a way of watching a film that you may not potentially think that you might want to have in the collection, but being able to watch it on a streaming service will kind of make you, oh, yeah, I want to add that to the collection. I want a physical copy of that. So that's a good thing about some of the streaming services is the fact that you have the opportunity to check out a film before you commit to a purchase.
Yeah.
So I think that helps a lot.
You're absolutely right. That's a really good point, especially as you mentioned, these titles can sometimes get a bit pricey.
Hmm.
And so it's always nice to have. And I think streaming services with I think very reasonable subscription rates
Hmm.
can, and you have so much at your fingertips.
Right.
And it's really quite overwhelming, I think, on a lot of respects. So, like
Yeah.
for instance, Netflix. I mean, my family relatively recently became a Netflix family in a manner of speaking. So my
Hmm.
kids love watching Netflix now, and I we love watching things on Netflix together. Like
Right.
even these like cooking shows on
Oh
Netflix. Because
yes,
Netflix
my
was
wife
like,
loves those.
oh, they're so cool. Like my kids love the ones where they've got to they make something. Is it candy or is it food? Or not, is it
Right.
candy or is it like a shoe? Or is it like a book or is it chocolate or something like that? Oh, it's like these really, and they're a lot of fun and they're well polished and put together. So it's
Yeah.
kind of our own family viewing in a manner of speaking. And so all these shows as well that are made available. And then sometimes, of course, you'll have streaming titles that once in a while will find their way onto some
Hmm.
kind of physical media release, such as some of the things that Criterion's trying to do,
Right.
I suppose, with its say Netflix deals or the like.
Yeah.
So
Which I love it when they do those things. Yeah.
yeah,
I know like Power of the Dog, it was a streaming movie,
yeah,
and I recently added that to the collection over the past Criterion sale, so I really enjoyed that film. So it is good to see streaming movies get a physical media release. I love when they do that. A lot of the things on streaming, I enjoy true crime. I love true crime, unsolved mysteries, those type of shows. So it's good to, you don't get a lot of physical media releases for true crime type stories.
yeah.
So that's a good outlet to kind of break out a different. I'll get on a true crime kick and just watch that for the whole month on streaming. So it's good to have the variety. There's so much variety out there.
Yeah, it's almost like it's almost so much at what to choose. It becomes
Right.
that
Yeah.
kind of endeavor, which is fun. It's what a great dilemma to have, which is what
Right.
to watch next, right? I mean,
Exactly.
yeah,
We
it's
did away with our regular TV service. We don't even have, we don't have any kind of cable or normal TV. All we do is just watch streaming shows and stuff. Everything's out there. So,
and then but let me then ask, for instance, like a concrete example. I mean, you mentioned Disney Plus.
mhm.
Excuse me, you mentioned the Disney streaming services, and for instance, you also mentioned Star Wars.
Right.
You're talking about certain versions of, let's say the earlier films, let's say the original trilogy, for example. So
Right.
how do you manage the streaming services with that versus the physical media? Because as you know, there are different versions available. So how
Right.
do you manage, let's say an example like the Star Wars trilogy, the
Yeah.
original
So if I
trilogy?
wanted to watch the Star Wars trilogy, I would definitely pick it off my collection, off on physical media. That's the way I would watch it is the physical media release. I don't typically watch films that I have in the collection. If I have it physical, that's the version that I watch.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
So the
Okay.
only time I really watch the streaming stuff is if I don't have it in the collection or it's not available on physical media. That's what I'll do. Now there are exceptions, like I mentioned the Criterion streaming service or even Netflix. There'll be films on HBO Max that I'll watch that hasn't been released on physical media yet. But once it does get a physical media release, then I'm grabbing it. If I enjoyed it on streaming, then I'm going to add it to the collection. And one film in particular, The Banshees of Inisherin. I don't
Yeah,
even know
yeah.
how you pronounce it. Have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't seen it, but I've
Oh,
heard so much about it already.
So,
Yeah.
so I didn't know if I would like the film or not, and so I watched it on streaming first and loved it. It was probably one of my favorite movies of 2022.
Wow.
And as soon as I watched it, I ordered it and added it to the collection. So it's a good way of testing the waters if you're going to like a film or not before you commit to spending money on it. And so that's a big plus for having a streaming service. It kind of gives you an outlet of testing the waters, seeing if you're going to like a film before you spend money.
No, that's a really good point. Even earlier today, I was watching something on Amazon Prime, and I
Mhm.
was getting into it, and suddenly it just stopped. Was it buffering? I even
Oh
get
man,
yeah, it's
I
that's
hate it.
still an issue. So
Yeah.
I mean, of course, every now and again you'll have a scratched disc, or maybe a disc
Right.
will freeze or something. So it's I understand it's
Yeah, it's
physical
back and
media
forth.
isn't immune to that sort of thing as well,
Right.
but uh,
Yeah.
that sort of thing does occur, I think, more often than not for me with the streaming services. But that doesn't take away overall from my reliance on it, though. So.
Right.
But oh, that's really cool. I love that. And I have to ask too, which is how do you arrange your titles? You
Mm,
said you have a separate room for TV shows, but
right.
how do you arrange them on the shelf?
Yeah. So everything gets arranged by alphabetical order, um, except for the occasion that there's a number on the spine. Now, I used to have the
Yeah.
Criterion Collection with the number on the spine in numerical order, but I always had the worst time trying to find a title.
Yeah.
So now everything's in alphabetical order. There's only a few items that I still have with number order, and that's because the collection's so small that I can just visually see what I want to get. But as the numbers get higher and higher, it's definitely in alphabetical order. I got everything grouped together, so I've got I'm a big fan of different slipcover type artwork. So I have like Academy Award movies that have the gold slipcovers. So those are separated on the shelf. I've got Paramount Presents has a special line
Yeah.
of titles that have slipcovers. So those are separated. So everything's separated in their little group up until the main collection. And then the main collection is just in alphabetical order. I keep my 4K collection separate than my Blu-ray collection. I keep my steel books separate than the Blu-ray collection. So everything's kind of grouped together. My Criterion collection's all together. My Kino Lorber titles are together. So it's grouped by boutique label and then in the alphabetical order.
Oh, wow.
It makes it easier. It makes it easier to find titles.
So you can now, for instance, you can turn around and point
Mhm.
to a particular part of the shelf and say,
Yeah.
that's this part of
Right.
my collection. That's that part
Yeah.
of my
So,
collection.
like if you had a title in your head and you say, "Hey, Tony, where was this title at?" And if you want to do an example, we could do this and see if I've got it. But you can just name something. I can just go right to it.
Okay, Top Gun Maverick.
Top Gun Maverick.
This is really cool. Oh, this is so cool. That's
So
cool.
I've got the still book for that.
Oh, this is fun. Can I do a few more? This is really fun. Do
Sure.
you mind? Okay.
No, I don't
Uh,
mind.
The Dark Knight Rises.
I don't have to go far for that one.
Okay.
So all of my all of so talking about my collection, I do group the superhero movies separate than the rest. So um I got my Batman titles here.
That's great. And then what? Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Oh, great. And then what was it? What was the section where you pulled Top Gun Maverick from on
Um
the shelf further? What
all
part
those
of discussion is that?
yeah, that's all still books.
Oh, cool.
All those are still books. And really all of these over here beside me are still books also.
Oh, cool.
Now I
Can I
do
do?
have multiple copies. I've got The Dark Knight Rises and other versions, but this was just my easy pull.
Can I do one more?
Sure.
Oh gosh, this is so fun. Let's see. How about, okay, Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
I've got several copies of it.
That's so awesome. Oh, cool. Very cool. Oh,
Of course, I've got the Shout Factory, the Scream Factory release. I've got it back on the shelf too. Friday the 13th is another one that I've got multiple copies of just because There have been so many different releases.
You did a video on that recently, one of the recent releases, right?
I do, yes,
Yeah.
I do.
Oh, that's really cool. Oh, this is so
So,
much fun. Oh gosh, this is really cool. So, okay, can I do one more here?
sure, sure.
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
Oh, he's gone to. Oh goodness. Okay, so he's gone to a different part off screen.
So I got
So
all my 4K releases are in the other room also.
I was gonna say, yeah, so you went to a different room.
Right.
So that's
Yeah, the other
off
room.
camera.
Yeah, so the other room off camera is exactly the same size as this room, except that it's split in half. I've got my theater set up in that other room. So everything's pretty much down here in the basement. I don't have any physical media upstairs.
That is amazing. So you can know where things are,
Oh yes,
more or
I know
less.
where everything is.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That is really amazing. That takes a lot of. I mean, I can't. I don't know where. I mean, except for the Criterion titles, I suppose. But even though, like as you say, it's hard to keep track
Yeah.
sometimes based on
Well,
spine numbers. So,
as I
uh,
mentioned, I raised my family. My kids are all grown, so pretty much I get up, I go to work, I come home, I'm in the basement. This is where I spend all my time. I don't really have anything other than work and church. Um, this is pretty much my life. My wife works a lot. She spends time down here too. We watch movies and stuff together, but she's pretty much upstairs most of the time. Like I said, it's kind of cold down here in the basement. So
yeah.
so this is pretty much where I spend my time. This is where I'm happy. Um, you know, when I retire, this is probably where I'll be, so everything's down here. So I really enjoy it. So I know where everything's at.
And do you have space allocated for future release? Are there blank
Oh,
shelves or empty shelves on the wall,
yeah.
or not
So
really?
that's the very tough part. I am um in the midst of building more shelves to help. I'm gonna have to do some rearranging, but yeah, I'm definitely out of space. Used to everything was in this room. If you go back to my YouTube videos from 10 years ago when I was just starting out, it was everything was empty. As the years progressed, you can kind of see the collection growing and growing and growing. Yeah, I'm definitely out of space. It's really hard. I love to keep posters up. It gives you more of a movie type theme.
Yeah.
But there may be times where I have to take the posters down and build some more shelves.
So I see some posters behind you. Yes, in this room in
Exactly.
particular. So
Right.
those look
Yeah.
really lovely.
And there's posters in the other room also. Like I got Beetlejuice, Friday the 13th. Some of the older films posters are in the other room. This one pretty much just has like the Marvel type posters. There used to be Disney posters down here, but I kind of change them up.
Oh, that's great. And you mentioned Friday the 13th, and you also mentioned the Scream Factory box. I have to ask you, because being a
Hmm.
Friday the 13th fan myself, what's your favorite Friday the 13th movie?
Well, I
Or
have
is it
fond
hard to
memories.
say? You can say more than one, yeah.
Right, right. I definitely love the first three, and out of the first three, the one that I have most memories of is Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D. I
Yeah.
remember my mom taking me and my brothers to see that. Of course, it was rated R, so you had to have a parent take you to see that. And I remember that being probably one of my first real 3D movies that I've seen in the theater, to where it wasn't just the red and blue glasses, it was actual immersive 3D. And that was I just remember the pitchfork coming out at me. I just, so that's probably my fondest memory is Friday the 13th, part three.
Oh yeah, and like juggling
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, juggling into the camera, and then
Which
suddenly
reminds me of Jaws 3D. I know a lot of people hate Jaws 3 in 3D, but going to the theater and seeing that in 3D back in the early 80s was a big deal.
yeah,
So,
I love Jaws 3. I was I mean I was so young. I
oh
was
yeah.
probably too young to see that film, but I saw that film. I mean, I don't my memories are kind of hazy, but I remember seeing it, or I have memory seeing it in the theater. My parents took me to see it in the theater,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's quite an experience. Yes, and it's 3D as well.
that
Yeah,
is a big deal.
but Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D. Oh, that's really fun.
Yeah.
Uh,
The barn, they jump out on the little rope from the barn and you can
yeah.
see them dangling and stuff. It was just amazing.
Yeah, or Jay, the
Right.
like that. Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, it's certainly an immersive experience. So,
Yeah. So speaking about Shout Factory and Scream Factory, I know that they don't ship out of the US. So how do you collect titles that are not available where you're at?
oh, that's a good question. So I'm able to get Shout Factory, Scream Factory titles through, say, general outlets like Amazon or something like
Okay.
that. So I'm able to get titles. I can't get sometimes I can't get those special releases like the posters or something.
All right.
Those are pretty much out of bounds for me at the moment. But that's
Okay.
okay. That's okay. I'm able to get the title. Sometimes I won't be able to guarantee getting, say, the slip cover or not.
Mm,
So, but uh, i- I'm pretty bad when it comes to keeping up with slipcover versions as well. Again, because
right.
it's hard for me to know exactly what version I'll get, even if it says slipcover on the website. That doesn't always mean that I'll get the slipcover
Right.
version. So,
Yeah.
but it's okay.
It's about the
Some
film.
yeah, and the titles are really good as well. I'm a big fan. I like them a lot. So, and also Kino Lorber, you mentioned Kino as
Oh,
well.
yes.
I think that's such a great label as well. Oh,
Yeah. Excellent.
so strong indeed. So I just got the Kubrick films, the 4K Kubrick films, the early
Mm.
films like
Oh,
Paths of
yeah.
Glory and Killer's Kiss and The Killing. So,
Yes, I love those.
and they're coming out with some new 4K titles, I think, this year, right?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
they're going strong. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. So, but this then brings me to my next question. I mean, you mentioned a little bit before, but also now I want to once again uh, uh, refocus the spotlight on your YouTube channel as well.
Mm.
So we mentioned this at the start, and you mentioned a little bit about the channel and the 10 years. And
Right.
it was also a means, it was kind of like a diary in a manner of speaking in terms of
Mhm.
your own growing collection and talking about your collection and sports. So how does YouTube and making the videos figure into your own cinema experience? And what does it mean to you to make YouTube videos and talk about these titles?
Yeah. So as I had mentioned earlier, I'm pretty much a homebody. I go to work, I come home. So there's not really many people that I can talk films with. So a lot of times I will just be searching out different YouTube channels to figure out, what's this release going to have in it? What's this movie about? Am I going to have any interest in purchasing this? So with YouTube, it's a good outlet to be able to kind of get a community together. I've met so many great people over the years who I really enjoy watching their videos. And to me, YouTube's a good outlet for me to give my recommendations of films that I like to watch. I'm not a big I'm not a big talker, so I don't do reviews per se, but I do like to show the items that I've added to the collection. So I do a monthly video of the titles that I've added in the collection. I do a lot of steelbook type videos to where I unwrap them and show what the show the consumers what they can expect if they were to purchase that steelbook. Also, I like to do videos on what I've watched during the month so that people can kind of get a suggestion of if I liked a movie or if I didn't like it. Just a lot of theme type videos are the type of videos that I do. Like I mentioned earlier, when there's a Criterion sale during the month of November, I like to focus my videos on those types of items. So I'll do, my top 10 recommendation video, um, what I went out and bought at Barnes and Noble, those kind of videos. So it's pretty much just being a part of the community, just hearing what other people think and kind of giving my opinions of what I think about the films.
Oh, that's so cool. That's great. And you have, as I say, this great channel,
Oh,
Basement
thank you.
Blues.
I appreciate that.
And again, once again, all the information will be is going to be in the description box. So if you haven't had a chance yet to check out Tony's channel, go there right now.
Hmm.
You can pause this discussion, go to the channel right now, Basement Blues,
I keep
subscribe, check out all the videos,
I keep my
comment.
videos very short. They're all pretty much under 5 minutes, so they're very to the point. They're not big talking videos, which I do enjoy watching those. I'm just not very big at explaining things and talking about different films. I can say, "Oh yeah, I liked it," but that's pretty much the extent of my reviews. You know, if I liked it or if I didn't like it.
But I think it's also part of the it's also showing the various, say, items
Mm,
themselves, and also because, as you say, this stuff can be very expensive.
all right.
And I'm looking at these videos too of yours, and I'm looking at things of a lot of times these will be titles that I don't have, and so I
Mhm.
need it's this is a great way for me to check out things that maybe I might like I might be very interested in. Like, for example, I think we struck up a conversation. Maybe it was on Instagram, if I remember correctly, about the recent Tarantino films
Mhm.
releases. And
Right.
so I think you were mentioning like the steel books, for
Right.
instance. I think of
Yes.
Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction, for
Exactly,
example. So
which I love Tarantino films, they're just wonderful. I love the Coen brother films. There's so many great, titles out there. So, Reservoir Dogs, I never have seen the movie. This was my first time watching it when I got the Steelbook, so after I watched it, I wanted everybody to know, "Hey, this is a great Steelbook and the movie's wonderful." So many ways of connecting with the community and giving my opinions of what I think is a good release or not,
and you have a very healthy output in terms
right?
of the number of things that you put out on various channels or various platforms. How do you do that? That's
Well,
amazing.
like I said, I don't do much of anything else other than work and come home. I just find time to keep building on the I guess I don't know, with Instagram I try to do at least one post every single day, just to keep my collection out there. Um I do like being part of people's live streams. So there's a lot in the movie community that live stream on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I participate like this evening I'll be doing a live stream discussing my favorite Harrison Ford films. So it's a good way of getting in with the community and talking about films and talking about a certain actor or a certain director. And so when I post my post, it kind of gives me a way of participating in that.
Could I ask? Because I think this might your live stream will have already finished by the
Oh,
time this is
exactly,
this
it
is up. So
will.
what are some Harrison Ford titles?
Oh, man, there's so many good ones. Um, just to think of a few, Regarding Henry
Oh,
is a
cool.
good one.
Yeah.
I love that. Blade Runner, which I just showed, is another great one. Of course, the Star Wars films, I love those, but not necessarily because of Harrison Ford. Indiana Jones, of course, is very nostalgic to me. He's had such a good filmography. Um, so there's just so many of them.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorites?
You mentioned some already, but maybe some others come to mind would be like, I don't know, what was that one? I'm
Witness
very
is
bad.
another one.
Witness.
Witness,
Oh, that's a good one. Oh,
man,
yes.
I love that one.
Also The Fugitive,
Oh, The Fugitive, yes, that's a good one.
or what was that one?
Air Force
Air
One,
Force One. I was gonna say yes, Air
yes,
Force One. Get
yeah,
off my plane. Yeah.
exactly, yeah,
Okay.
man, such a
So
good career, and he's
yeah,
still going. I'm just really looking forward to the new Indiana Jones film. It's,
yeah.
I'm
Wh-
really hoping that it has a good. I hope it's good. That's all I hope.
When is that coming out again? Is that this year or
Yeah, it's
I don't
coming out
next?
this year. I want to say
Okay.
it's maybe a June release. I can't remember exactly when, but
Okay.
I did a video recently of my top 10 most anticipated films coming out in 2023.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
definitely mentioned in that video.
Because I'm also very bad with recent release
Right.
information. Like I didn't know. I mean, I knew about the film. It was coming out. Avatar.
Oh,
The Way of
yes.
Water. I knew it was coming out, but I didn't know it was like
Here,
last month.
right?
And the people are talking about, or oh, you mean Avatar is coming out like this week? Oh, I didn't. Oh my goodness, I didn't know
Right.
that. So
Did you have a
I'm
chance to see it yet?
not yet. Not I
Yeah.
have I'm waiting for my kids
Mm,
to be able to go. It's a little bit busy with studies at the moment, but
right. It's a long
when
movie.
yeah, I want to take that. I don't want to go without I don't want to go ahead of them. So I want to have a
Right.
fresh experience, but I'm sure it'll
But-
still be out.
oh
But,
yeah, it'll be
yeah,
out.
yeah.
That
So
makes me bring up another point. There are certain films that I have to see on opening weekend. You know, if a film comes out and you think that there's gonna, like, if you see a new Scream movie, a lot of people like to talk about who the killer was in the movie. So there's a lot of films that I have to go see on the opening weekend, because if not, social media will spoil it for you and tell you who the killer was. So do you have any films like that that you have to go see when as soon as it opens?
I let's see. I suppose it's sometimes hard for me to go on opening night, but I'll try to go as soon as
Mhm.
possible. I felt that way about and I don't go to the movie theater as much as I'd like
Oh,
to,
okay.
but maybe when I went, I felt that way about um it was a kind was it the Bond film No Time to Die,
Oh, yes. Mhm.
or the Batman.
Mhm.
And so, but sometimes also the release schedule will be somewhat staggered. So in
Right.
Japan, we'll get the release a little bit
Mhm.
later than
Right.
say in the North American release. Once in a while, maybe not so frequently, but every once in a while that might be the same timed release date. But for instance, for No Time to Die, it was a little bit later. For the Batman, it was a little bit later. So I already was kind
Yeah.
of getting a sense of what people were talking about with those films,
Right.
but still I was
Does
trying
that
to block
bother
it out.
you? Does it bother
No,
you to be
no, not
spoiled?
really. Not really. I mean, I'm pretty good at blocking that stuff out.
Oh, that's good.
So and I don't read I mean, I guess I don't read a lot of reviews prior to
Mhm.
watching the film.
Yeah.
Once in a
Same.
while it'll just come, but I don't mind that at all. So like if that
Right.
happened, I haven't seen the film. I haven't seen the film. What was it? What is it? Halloween Ends.
Oh, okay.
So but I kind of heard about what's going to happen, what happens in the
Right.
film. So I kind of have a sense of what's happening. But I mean, I don't mind. I don't
Right.
mind.
That's good.
I love me some Halloween, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I don't I didn't mind that much in terms of hearing what happens in Halloween Ends. But
Yeah.
I'm curious to see it.
Right. Exactly.
I know
Yeah.
it was it was quite a polarizing film.
Yes. Mhm.
Uh,
A lot of people were let down, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I'll be curious to see how I feel about it when it rises. I mean, that's an example too of really should try to get that physical media release from say North America, which you can
Mhm.
order and it can get shipped here with a little bit of shipping. But that
Yeah.
film I just realized is going to get a theatrical release here in Japan. It hasn't been released yet. It'll be in April.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, so that's already well
Yeah.
behind by
It
several
is kind of
months.
strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
They
not true. That's not true for all film releases, but that one is it's a bit, yeah. I mean, in April, it's kind of a curious release timing, but oh well.
right.
There must be some reason behind it,
Right.
it's then. So, are there any without giving too much away,
Mhm.
uh, without giving too much of the ingredients of the secret recipe, as it were? What are some maybe some upcoming plans
Mm.
or upcoming video discussion releases you have in store for us in terms of your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so I'm always doing steelbook unwrapping, so that's a pretty much constant thing. I do at least post one video every single day, so to keep the content moving, I always do some kind of steelbook. But some of the bigger videos is I'm going to be doing a basement tour to where there'll be a more in-depth, closer look at my collection, both rooms. So a lot of people have been anxious to wanting to see what's in on the other side of this wall. So I'll be doing that pretty soon. Hopefully by the end of January, I'll be able to do that. Um, and just whatever new releases come out. I really don't have very many big plans. It's pretty much a Saturday, usually on Saturdays when I get up, my thought process is what am I going to record today to release out the next week. So
Oh, that's cool.
nothing's really planned out too far in advance. But I
That's
am
cool.
doing a basement tour soon. So that's something that I think a lot of people are ready to see.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. Could I do just a couple more of these titles? Can I just
Sure.
say just I don't want to I'd please if you
Yeah.
get annoyed just let me know.
No, I'm not
I
annoyed.
so
Maybe I'll come across something that I don't have in the collection.
let's see. But I'm again let's see. Maybe oh gosh. How about The Shining?
The Shining.
Okay. So I think that means 4K. Yes. Okay.
Of course, I could have went to multiple places. I could have gone to my still books, my digibooks. I love digibooks. Do you like digibooks?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Those are very nice. Okay,
I
so
love The
there's
Shining. I love
yes.
Shelley Duvall's performance in The Shining was amazing. Of course, everybody talks about Jack Nicholson's performance, but Shelley Duvall, she made that movie for me.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I think, yes, in many ways, her physicality in that
Hmm.
role
She was
is
terrified. I mean, you
exactly,
could see it in her face.
exactly. And you needed that
Yes.
in order to sell the horror of the
Hmm.
and it works. It absolutely works. You're right. I'm so glad you highlight her performance. You're
Oh
well
man.
deserved. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see a couple more. Let's see. How about so maybe a TV show? So, what if I said something like Knight Rider?
Knight Rider. I do not
Does that
have
even
it.
have a release?
It does.
Okay.
And I actually may have the Knight Rider. Let me think about that.
Okay, okay.
Nope. You stumped me on that one. I didn't
Oh,
have the Knight Rider.
well, that I don't even know that so that has a release,
It
right? I mean, I
does.
kind of mentioned it out of the blue without knowing. So
Yeah, it
that's
does.
on me, so I apologize for that.
No, that's okay.
But what about how about another one? Let's maybe the TV show. How about The Simpsons?
Oh, definitely. I've got the first.
Okay.
They put out the first
Yeah,
8 seasons, and then they put out season 20.
good for you.
But other than that, they quit releasing those over here.
Yeah, good for you. I mean, especially some episodes, right? I mean, as you
Right.
mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
in terms of physical media, the kind of the permanence of it versus
Right. I
episodes that
really
might be
wish.
getting, yeah,
It bothers me that they quit. When they
yeah,
started collection, like season 1 through 8, why not just go ahead and continue doing those? But
yeah,
they just quit altogether.
yeah. Those are great releases. I love those
I
releases.
love The
So
Simpsons. Yes,
yeah, me
still going
too.
strong.
Yeah. And so okay, and then okay, the last one I promise. And
Mhm.
let's see, how about okay, how about the Army of Darkness?
Army of Darkness.
Okay. Well done. Yes. Well done.
Yes.
I love that. I love that movie so much.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
And so what was that corner of the
Oh
room?
yeah. So back on that corner, all my Scream Factory and Shout Factory titles are on a big shelf back there. You see the little wooden treasure chest right there?
Yes, I do.
That's a wooden treasure chest. Right behind that is a big tall shelf that goes up to the ceiling, and it's got all of my Scream Factory and Shout Factory titles on it.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's so awesome. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the last one, I promise. I really
Sure.
promise this is the last one. Big Trouble in Little China. I'm so sorry. This is the last one, I promise.
So this was a special release. Of course, I've got the Blu-ray, but it also came with a nice box that has a record on the inside.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Wow.
box open. But there's a
Oh,
whole
yeah.
series. There's a whole series of these boxes that have the silver foil image on them. There's some for Halloween films, but it has a record on the inside.
Wow.
It's got Pork Chop Express
Yeah.
and the Alley War, and it's just a vinyl record that goes along with
Oh,
the collection.
that's so cool. Oh, yeah, yeah, that's I don't want to
Yeah, it's
uh
okay.
okay.
It's
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
hmm so,
Oh.
but that's a part of my Screen Factory collection, also Shop Factory.
Oh, that's so cool. That is so awesome. Oh, thank you very much for letting me
Sure.
yeah, yeah, this kind of oh, that's so fun. That was so fun. That's really cool. Uh
We're gonna have to watch a video of yours where you do nothing but talk about you can do your own Criterion Closet video, right?
Yeah. Well, it's I don't know if it's a closet. Well, it wasn't. Well, that was in my old apartment or where I was
Yeah,
living. Now I moved, and so
right.
it's kind of been we divided a small room up. And so
Okay.
that's where we are right now.
Right. I
But
love it.
it's I love that that space you have. That's really awesome. So
Yeah.
that
So another comment, I've been watching your videos probably since for the past 2 years.
oh, thank you
Um,
very much. Thank you.
I'm really big and really good friends with Stephanie, Movie Chatter, Dave
Yeah.
from Film Collector Archives. There's so many other in the community. But anyways, watching your videos, I always enjoy watching your videos and how friendly and how polite you are, how the way you open up all your videos about your dear friends. I just love how pleasant you are. And I know I don't
Thank you.
comment a lot on videos of when I watch your videos and stuff, but I have been watching your channel for many years, and I'm this has been a really big honor for me to be a part of your videos.
We're wow, that is such a wow. I'm very touched and flattered by that, my friend. Thank you. Really, thank you very much. And no, believe me, the pleasure is all mine. Really is. I've had such a blast here going forward with this. So, but before we go, I wanted to ask you another question, if that's
Sure,
okay, which is,
sure.
what are some? I mean, you mentioned your anticipated films of 2023 in that video that one of the videos on your YouTube channel. Again, Basement Blues. If you
Right.
haven't subscribed, check out Basement Blues. Subscribe, comment, notification bell, thumbs up, and like it's really great, really great. Basement Blues. What are some uh, titles, releases that you are anticipating,
Mm,
excited for in
that's a
2023?
hard one. You know, there's so many of them, and then
Yep.
your mind just kind of goes blank. Um, to be honest with you, I can't even think about what's coming out next week all of a sudden, but um, I'm sure there's a lot of good stuff. I just can't think of any off the top of my head.
We
We are
mentioned
getting,
the
I know
Texas
what.
Chainsaw
Yeah, so
4K.
we're getting all
Yeah.
the we're getting the first four Rocky films on 4K, which I'm very excited about those releases. So we're finally getting some Rocky films on 4K. Um, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like you said, on 4K is gonna be another good one. But I really can't think of any other ones off the top of my head. I'm sure there's gonna be many good ones.
Gosh, yes, I suppose. Also, gosh, I mean, I asked the question, but
Mhm.
even yes, you as you mentioned it, yes, it's hard
It's
to
hard to
keep
think.
to
It is.
come up with stuff because there's just so much. Yeah.
Yes,
So
it's overwhelming how much is coming out.
I suppose I just saw recently, for instance, what 12 Angry Men
Oh yeah,
is
that's
going to
going to
come
be
out. What Kino, right?
exactly. Yes, Kino's doing a 4K release for that, which I'm definitely looking forward to. It's also going to include the made for TV movie.
Yes, exactly. The William Friedkin, yeah, and
Yes.
Jack Lemmon, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was also a surprise, and also like a new audio commentary track or something like that. Again, if I get these details wrong, forgive me, but that's really cool.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that.
Me too. Kino, gosh, that's a great label. I really enjoy that. So, but oh, this Tony, this is so much fun. This has been a great time. I'd love to do this again.
Sure,
Uh,
anytime.
I love that game. I'm so sorry again.
That's
If
okay.
you're annoyed, please
No,
forgive
not
me.
annoyed at all. I love showing. I love being able to do that. It's a lot of fun.
That's really cool. That's really. Do you do that on your channel?
I don't, but I've been a part of some live streams where I've done that on some
Okay.
people's live streams. So
That could be a cool. I know a lot of people might be interested to do that, so you could have that as a another video on your channel or something like that. That's really cool.
yeah, that
That's
would
really
be
cool.
that's a good idea. Maybe I can do that. Maybe I can make it a monthly thing.
Oh, I know a lot of people.
Show and tell or whatever.
I had that was so much fun. I can't tell you. I had so much fun with that. So, all right. So, Tony, my dear friend, I don't want to keep you. I know you're a busy man. So, maybe just one more time, if it's okay with you. The
Sure,
floor is yours. So, please, could you let everyone know again about your channel and any other upcoming news related to that, or Instagram, or anything else you want to
sure.
talk about before we leave?
Sure. So my name's Tony. I am Basement Blues. I love collecting physical media. I enjoy talking films with other collectors, other movie lovers. Um, I do have my own YouTube channel, Basement Blues. I also like to post on Instagram what I've been picking up and titles that I've been watching. So you can find me on Instagram. I also watch a movie every single day. So I log that on my Letterboxd account. You can find me over on Letterboxd under Toy Collector. But any of my videos that you check out, there's always a link in the description of all those videos from all my social media accounts. So this has been a pleasure. I really have enjoyed having this conversation with you, Daisuke, and I really appreciate you letting me be a part of your YouTube videos.
No, what are you talking about? The pleasure's all mine, my friend. Really, really. And you,
Thank you.
you know, keep up the excellent work.
Thank you.
Really,
I
keep it
will.
up. As I say, I don't know all this information, so you. I need you as one of my sources, and
Sure.
to let me know what's good to check out. You know what I mean? So, and I need that too, because again, I need that kind of interactive experience to see what it is, because these things aren't cheap. They
Right.
can get pricey. So, and as you say, you have this great attitude and approach to this in terms of your, month in advance type of planning that we
Right.
spoke about earlier, and your philosophy, and also the cinema journey that you have, as well as the great recall that you have with everything. So I had it so much fun today, and I'd love to be able to do it again very soon,
Sure.
Tony. Oh, this is great, and of course I will have all the information once again for your channels in the description box. So once again, my dear friends, please go to his Instagram code, go to Tony's Basement Blues YouTube channel, subscribe, follow, and of course, Letterbox as well, and all the places that we've spoken about. It's really a lot of fun. And Tony, what a great film enthusiast, physical media enthusiast you are. So keep up the excellent work, my dear friend.
I will.
Thank you very much. And we will talk again very soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.